Ms. Janda is going to talk about what they've been doing in different portions of the island. Okay?
Excuse me.
Large?
I thought you were going to allow questions after each presentation.
Actually, we're going to allow questions at the end of the presentation. These presentations are kind of rather short. We're going to go through Danielle's and then Chris's. Okay? Go ahead.
So I'm going to talk about some radiological surveys that we're doing at 5 sites throughout Treasure Island. So in 2014, we finished our historical radiological assessment tech memo, and basically that presented all of the historical information about where the Navy may have possibly used radiological materials. So this is the results of that assessment. Now we're following up and we're actually doing radiological surveys. So I'm going to talk about 5 different sites. And what we're calling the northeast corner, which is in the northeast corner. Site 24, which is a surplus site. This is site 24 over here. And there's a couple of radiological sites within the Site 24 area. IR Site 20, which is within the housing area. This is at IR Site 20 over here. Site 30 and related areas. So Site 30 is the daycare center, which is right here in the related areas in blue, and some storm and wastewater lines that are related to former Building 233. So I'm going to go through all these sites and talk about the history and what it is that we're doing. So starting with the northeast corner, there's 2 specific sites that we are looking at right now. We're looking at this area right here, which is currently the wastewater treatment plant, but during World War II, it was used as a recycling center. So a lot of materials from ships were passed through this. And because ships were passed through, possibly unregulated radiological materials such as deck markers and things like that were passed through. So we're doing a survey of that area. The other area that's part of this survey is Building 461. Which is up here. This is part of the former damage control school, which is an area where sailors used to go to basically train for emergency situations to keep ships afloat. And the whole school is being investigated for radioisotopes, basically because the USS Pandemonium is placed in that area. And the USS Pandemonium was a mock ship. It was used to practice decontamination of ships, and this whole school was connected. So Building 461 was used for classrooms mostly, so it's possible that they used check sources and things like that in that building, so we're investigating that as well. This picture on the right shows
a check source.
A check source is something that you use to make sure that your equipment is working. So it would have a radioisotope on the check source, and you would use your equipment over it to make sure that it's calibrated and it's working correctly. So this picture is of something that we got from a newspaper article back during World War II at the recycling center that went on over in this area. This whole area is eventually going to be looked at for radioisotopes. This is Site 6 that Louis just presented, talked about a different project, and this is Site 32, which we have finished the work last year. Next slide. So what we did is we did a radiological scan of the entire surface area, and we did a radiological scan of Building 461, and we collected 120 samples and we analyzed them for radioisotopes. The Field work is complete, but the data is currently under review. But so far, with the preliminary analysis, we found no evidence of radiological contamination at these two areas. Next slide, please.
What are the yellow dots?
Please don't interrupt, and please let the speaker complete.
She asked a question.
The
I just asked what the
presentation.
yellow dots were.
The yellow dots are the sampling points.
Okay, thank you.
The next site I'm going to talk about is Site 24, which Site 24 is a CERCLA remediation site, but there are radiological sites within Site 24 that are not related to the CERCLA contaminants. This is Lot 69. Which is right here, this L-shaped yard, and that was used as a department salvage yard. So solid waste used to go through there, and the Navy would either dispose of it or recycle it. And so because materials went through there, possibly unregulated radiological materials went through there as well. The other area we're investigating is Building 342, which is right here. This yard area that was associated with Building 342, that was part of the Navy the former Naval Technical Training Center. So where they did used it for analysis of radioisotopes, and they used check sources in that area as well. This building, this blue building right here, that was also identified as a potential for radioisotope use, but we had already investigated that in 2008 and closed that out. Next slide, please. So again, we're doing basically the same thing at each of these sites. So we're doing a radiological scan of the entire surface area. We're collecting samples. We collected 80 samples in this case. The sampling depends on the surface area. So again, the dots are the sampling locations. And we did a radiological scan of Building 342. The field work again is complete, but we are still analyzing the data, but so far we have no evidence of radiological contamination in these areas. Okay, the next slide I'm going to talk about is Petroleum Site 20. This is within the housing area, so this whole area is part of Site 12, which is the housing area. In 2013 and 2014, we did a radiological survey of the entire housing area, basically because there's potential for low-level radiological items to be spread throughout the area from the SWIDAs, which Chris is going to talk about later. But we left this area out of the survey because the survey was meant to be about Site 12. So now we're going in, we did a survey of the area within. Next slide. So same thing, we did a radiological scan of the entire surface area. In this case, we collected 60 samples and we analyzed them for radioisotopes of concern. And in this case, we did find one area of interest, so area with slightly elevated radiological measurements. So we investigated that area further. We basically took out about a cubic foot of soil and took some more samples of that area. And the data for that is currently under review. Next slide, please. And so the next site is Site 30 and the related areas. So this is Site 30 right here, which is the daycare center. And then Site 31 is right next to it. Those are both CERCLA remediation sites. We did a CERCLA removal action in 2003 at the daycare center where we found some burnt debris. And we're investigating the areas north and south, and the reason is this place was used as a storage area. So this whole area during Navy activities was used as a storage area. So same thing for the other sites, because materials went through, because it was a storage area, unregulated radiological materials may have also passed through. So we're doing a really detailed survey of the site. So I just want to point out that CDPH also did a survey of this site back in 2012. So we did the same thing. We did a radiologic scan of the entire site. We collected 200 samples and analyzed them for radioisotopes. And in this case, we also, because like I said, during the circle investigation, we found some burnt debris. We did some borings underneath the building that's there, underneath the daycare center, and we collected some samples of the burnt debris to make sure that it had no radioisotopes in it. So our field work for this is complete. We're still reviewing the data, but so far we found no evidence of radiological contamination in these areas. And the last site I'm going to talk about is the storm and wastewater lines. So below the building, former building 233. There was a radium spill in 1950. We had removed the building and cleaned it and remediated the building, and now we're looking at the sewer and the stormwater lines that were leaving the building, just to make sure that none of the radium that was spilled managed to get into the sewer or the sanitary sewer system. So this map kind of shows building 233 is down here on the southeastern side. And we're investigating all of the lines that go from the building all the way to the wastewater treatment plant. And as part of this, we're also doing some more excavation. So this is the former footprint of the building, which we have dug up and investigated and made sure that what's left is clean. And now we're excavating the remaining sewer lines, so the brown and the yellow areas. So this fieldwork is still in progress. We are doing a visual and radiological investigation of the inside of the wastewater line. So again, this is a wastewater line that goes all the way up the eastern side of the island. We're also going to collect samples at access points, so cleanouts and things like that. And like I said, we're also excavating some of the remaining stormwater lines that are associated with building 233. And that is it for this section.